Hallo, mitt publikum. In Norwegian, that's hello, my audience. Welcome to Beauties and Beasts, the podcast for all things Beauty and the Beast. Now, why did I start this podcast with Norwegian? I hope I did that right, by the way. In Norwegian, I do not know. Because today, in further celebration of Women's History Month, we'll be talking about the 2016 Norwegian film, The Lion Woman, another movie centering around a female beast. This character in particular, Eva Arctander, was born with hypertrichosis, or long hair disorder, meaning she has long hair all over her body. This is a fictional story, of course. It's based on a Norwegian novel written in 2006 by Erik Fosnes Hansen. I am so sorry if I butchered your name. Once again, I don't know Norwegian. And because of that, I did not read the book version, but I did watch the movie on Netflix. You can watch the English dub, and you can also watch it with English subtitles. Either way is pretty good, though. I should warn you, the English dub is kind of, well, the voices sound really cheesy. So what's interesting about this film, not only does it star a female heroine who is different physically, in a beastly way, but this movie is also written and directed by a woman. And, oh boy, and this woman is, Vibeke Idsøe. I am so sorry. I'll just type it out in the description. And also, funny thing, when you have a story about someone who looks different physically, there's usually a romantic plot. But this movie is not essentially a romance. And I'll get more into that later. First, shout out to the $5 plus patrons, Anime Guy 1101, Tyrannosaurus Venom, and Satuhana. Thank you for your continuing support on the podcast. If you'd like to support Beauties and Beasts, just pledge at least $1 a month by clicking on the green button in the right-hand corner of the screen if you're listening on Podbean, or follow the link in the description below if you're listening on YouTube. Money goes to fund the podcast. Last year, I broke my external hard drive, and the money was going to be used to repair it, but it's really beyond repair. So instead, it's going to be used to get me a subscription to OneDrive so I can back up the files that I still have right now. It's also going to be used to buy me soundproofing equipment and to get me to see my friends Magpie Pony and the Lost Narrator's wedding next year. In return, you will get early access to new episodes, access to episode previews, complimentary gifts such as t-shirts or mugs, depending on how much you pledge, shout out on the show, and access to live episode recordings. For instance, right now, this episode's being recorded live for 3 patrons. All 3 patrons, yay! If you feel you cannot make a monthly commitment, you can just buy some of the Beauties and Beasts merchandise on Redbubble. There will be links in the description below. They have the Beauties and Beasts logo, the quote, "True beauty comes from the kindness you show others," and some stuff doing with other fairy tales such as Cinderella and the Frog Prince. You can get this on t-shirts, mugs, notebooks. I personally love the notebooks. Stickers. Just go check it out. The royalties for those will be used to fund the podcast as well. Alright, so let's go on to the movie. It takes place in 1912 of Norway, when the station master's wife gives birth and then dies during the process, very sad, and the child is born with hair all over her body. And the father, who is both horrified at the child and distressed that his beloved wife is now gone, he is not too happy about it. He even hesitates to give the girl a name at first. In fact, it's the people who offer to care for her for the first couple of weeks who give her the name Eva, which is a Norwegian version of the name Eve in the Bible, who's the first woman. And the doctor who delivered her even argued, well, science shows that, once upon a time, people would have hair all over their bodies before they evolved. So Eve very well could have looked like this little one here. In order to take care of the child, Eva's father, Gustav, hires a teenage girl named Hannah to be the wet nurse, who recently gave birth, but lost the baby and now has nowhere to go because she's been disowned by her family. And Hannah becomes a sort of surrogate mother for Eva/older sister. And in the first couple of years of Ava's life, Dad isolates her and locks her in a little cupboard whenever she disobeys or acts out. Though you can kind of figure out that she only does this in order to get attention from her father because, well, it's her father and she's never met her mother. In fact, she keeps a picture of her mother and kind of envies that she does not look like her own mother. That's really sad. So Ava is homeschooled and she really loves math, and she is told to never go outside, to stay away from the window. Really kind of sad. I mean, she actually doesn't look that bad. I think she's cute, even with all that hair. And it's not until she's around 9 that her father starts taking her out, starting with the town's Christmas tree party. It's when they say goodbye to the Christmas tree. A Norwegian tradition, I figure. And a few of the people actually, they stare at her, but it's really not that bad. Even the kids are just really more curious than mean. It's actually an adult, as in the magician at the party, who starts calling her a goat. But she gets back at him by showing that the eggs that he's making appear aren't even real eggs. Good job there, girl. And so Hannah, the wet nurse, she notices that Ava's getting kind of lonely and needs to go to school with the other children. Eventually, the father complies, although Ava soon learns when she gets to school that she's actually far ahead of the other children. And what's worse is that as she comes home from school, the children beat her up and even cut off some of her hair. By the way, I should point out that she can't actually cut her hair off because it'll just grow back and longer. There was actually a scene where Ava tried to shave it off, and the dad got really angry. So years go by, and when Ava's around 16, she's invited to a dermatology conference in Copenhagen, and she's thinking, oh, maybe they'll invent a cure for me. So Ava and her father go on a train ride, and the dad actually insists that they eat in the dining car, while others are watching. And this is a really sweet moment because they are laughing and talking together. Ava's like, don't mind them who are watching us. And it seems like the father's really gotten used to how his daughter looks, and he's finally becoming the father he should be. And he's just enjoying seeing her happy. Even gets her some ice cream. It's so sweet. Yeah, and then she goes to the dermatology convention, which turns out to be kind of weird. And she meets a guy with lizard skin who seems creepy when he's talking about the circus where he lives, where you might find happiness or even love. I mean, it's the only place you'll belong. I mean, you're just hideous, you know? Which is very mean on the surface, but actually the harsh truth. And funny thing is, this lizard skin guy is not the creepy guy at this conference. The creepy guy is the doctor who comes into her room and gets all really touchy. Oh my god, jeez. Wow. Yes, the doctor is the main creep. Thank you, Satuhana. And it gets even worse when she is shown to the doctors attending the conference and she's naked with her hairy body shown and they just poke and prod at her like she's some animal and it's so overwhelming that she faints. And the dad comes and when she clings to him, the dad... Oh, I bravo the dad for this, that he actually starts to suspect that something happened that was very shady with the doctor. He doesn't say anything, and he probably doesn't know what actually happened, but he probably guessed, because he pulled her out of there right away. Yes, yeah, a lot of patrons are going in the chat right now saying, yeah, the doctor's a creep, and there's a whole room full of creeps. Yes. This is a very dramatic movie. It's not really happy-go-lucky like a lot of the ones I review. This is a drama. Not a lot of happy stuff happens. But believe me, the payoff is worth it. And while this isn't a romance, Ava does meet a boy at some point, a boy who also plays hooky with her, and he takes an interest in her hair, but then later finds that he is with someone else at the lake and just touching her hair as well. It's just a boy with a hair fetish, I guess. Anyway, that fling didn't really last long. And later, Ava goes on another trip with her dad to a health resort, and this is actually for her dad's health. And while there, she meets a woman who is also Ava, and our little Ava thinks that the older Ava is very pretty. And the older Ava says, well, it's actually not easy being pretty. You see, every year, I get this snail treatment to keep myself pretty. Okay, yeah, this scene was really, really, ugh. She had these snails put all over her body to eat away at her dead skin to keep her skin smooth and soft. Yeah, so what she was trying to say is that the way to get pretty is actually not pretty itself. That Ava's probably just not missing much. And little Ava asks older Ava, will I ever get an ordinary man? And older Ava says, well, when you're young, beauty is life itself, but what is beauty really? And her own beauty is withering, even with all the snail treatments. So that really gives her some perspective. Alright, so Satuhana had said a a little while ago that she shipped Ava and Sparky, and Sparky is a young man who works at the train station. He's a telegrapher. He's the one who sends messages to other stations using Morse code. And they were good friends for a while. He taught her Morse code and told her that, women can actually be telegraphers if that's a job you want to pursue. I guess they could be shipped, in the future. But unfortunately, that friendship didn't last forever because Sparky was fired when money was going missing from the company. Now, it wasn't clear to me that Sparky had actually stolen the money or that the dad had taken the money to pay for Ava, or if Sparky had taken it because he had been talking about Ava's education and how she didn't want to be a telegrapher anymore. She wanted to go into mathematics. But yeah, when Sparky was fired and he left, that really gave Ava, I think, the final push to want to leave home. Her best friend is gone and she no longer has that boyfriend anymore. It was really sad, Satuhana. And then the circus comes to town, the same circus with the lizard man she had met at the conference. And she sees a tall man and a little woman getting engaged, and a man who also had a lot of hair, kind of like her. And the dad did not like it. He said it was very distasteful. And I can actually understand where he is coming from there, because when the director of the circus approached the dad and said that if Ava joined the circus, she could get her own money, she could see the world. The dad doesn't want to do it because last time he handed her off to someone, I'm talking about the conference, it didn't end so well. However, Ava, who is determined to see the world and find a sense of belonging and also earn money for college, she runs away to the circus without her father's permission. And years pass, and she is displaying her hairy body at shows and earning money. She asks the midget woman, "When do you ever get used to it?" And she replies, "You never get used to it." So even though she is with all these people who are also different, she still feels like she doesn't belong, that she's not comfortable with how she is. But when she does get enough money from the shows, she leaves the circus and she goes to college and becomes a math professor. And we see her giving a lecture about the number pi, which is a constant. And she starts the speech with, "Now, could my interest in the number pi have anything to do with my fur coat that some women would pay a fortune to wear? Well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But let me tell you about something that's more interesting. The formula that I have here." I love this scene because it shows how she's finally accepted her condition and her appearance. And she just immediately addresses the elephant in the room when she comes up there. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I have a hairy body, but here's why we're here. That's not why we're here." And everybody after the conference is congratulating her and giving her respect. They are respecting her for her mind and not caring about how she looks, which I really love. But then Ava receives a message from home with news that her dad has just died. And I find this very sad because she never got a chance to go home and say goodbye to him. Now, earlier in the movie, when she was a child, Ava had seen her father drawing the trains, and she asked him, "Do you think you can draw me?" And he said, "Some other time," over and over. But after the funeral, Hannah, the nurse, she gives Ava this briefcase that her father wanted her to have. And it's full of drawings that he had made of her. And it showed that he had loved her after all this time and had seen the beauty of her. Now, like I said, this wasn't a romance. The highlight of this movie was the relationship between the father and the daughter. Now, the father didn't accept her at first, on one hand because she was very unusual looking, but it turned out it probably wasn't about how she looked after all. It was from his grief of having lost his wife. He even refused to name her after his wife. But over time, when he saw her learning Morse code and operating the telegraph, he would just be going, "Well, I never." And whenever she said something really intelligent, he would just be surprised, but also pleased. He was finally starting to see that, despite her appearance, she had quite a beautiful mind and personality. And he eventually became a good father. Like I said, he took her out, let her go to school, even though the school didn't turn out so well. And when he suspected something was up at the conference, he took her home immediately. Now, I researched that the ending of the book is different from the movie, but actually the author had worked closely with the screenplay writer and director, and, the director had said, we've got to change the ending. We have to know what happened to the lion woman. And the author actually agreed, and he was the one who came up with the ending. So you could say this is pretty much canon to the book. Alright, so before I announce what we're going to do for next episode, here's a short message from my fairy god person patron, Satuhana.
Hey guys, Satuhana here, and I really just want to bring this message out to say I love DF's interpretations of all of these fairy tales and all the research that she's found on all of these different variations and interpretations of these fairy tales. I would have never guessed, for example, the Princess and the Frog, the first variation of it was how, the prince had to be slammed against the wall for the prince to be turned back into a prince. And how the girl was just really needing to show independence for herself. I love all these different variations and interpretations that's been made. I love her, opinion of how all of this was made. It makes sense to me on the different variations just came out. I love all of her content, and I love how hard she's working on it. Please keep up the good work, DF. And all of you that are listening, please support her podcast. She has done such amazing interpretations and just worked so hard on getting all the research for it. Please just support her podcast as much as you can. And if you're listening, I hope you're enjoying as much of it as I have. Thank you, DF, so much, and I shall see you all later. Bye.
All right, now, in regards to next episode, I'm going to be taking a short hiatus from Beauties and Beasts, at least the full episodes, because I'm in a production of Seussical, and the performances are coming up soon, and we have a lot of rehearsals next month, and I'm going to be needing my voice for the singing. And so the episodes will return May 9th for the Mother's Day special, earlier for patrons of $5 a month or more. And for that episode, we're going to be talking about a mother-daughter Beauty and the Beast story, Disney Pixar's Brave. But don't worry, there'll still be some stuff coming out in April, little mini-sodes and some bonus content for patrons, so keep your eye out. Alright, and if you want to see The Lion Woman, you can see it on Netflix now. I suggest you do it before they take it down. And are there any questions about today's episode? Yeah, I saw Anime Guy had said I have this audition in the bag, but you mistake me. It's not an audition. I'm already in the show. I'm one of the bird girls. But I'm going to be needed for a lot of rehearsals. As I'm one of the main course people, I'm in 15 numbers. That's a lot of songs to learn. And there are no questions today, but Satuhana says this story was very sad. It is sad, but I do love the ending. And it just shows that if you are different and people don't always accept you for who you are, you don't necessarily need to fall in love to feel like you belong in the world. You just need those few friends and those family, the ones who care about you. And more importantly, you need to care about yourself and find out who you are. Yeah, like Ava, she tried to fit in at school and just found out that not only did the kids not accept her, but intellectually wise, she was better than the other kids. And even when she tried fitting in with the carnival freaks, she knew that she was meant for something more. So after going into both worlds, she found her own path. Anime Guy says he has 2 recommendations for future episodes. You can say them right now. I'd like to hear them. Oh, one of them is Porco Rosso. I actually just watched that a couple weeks ago. I got a DVD collection of a lot of Studio Ghibli movies, because I had never watched any Studio Ghibli movies when I was a kid, and I've been trying to catch up on them. And I did see that. That is an idea for a future episode. That'll be an interesting one. And The Boy and the Beast. What's The Boy and the Beast? I have not heard of that one. Well, we can talk about that later. Okay, remember, if you want to fund this podcast, become a patron today by clicking on the green button on the right-hand corner of the screen, or follow the link in the description below, and check out the Beauties and Beasts merchandise. Please, please, please help me fund my podcast. Mama needs a new sound shield. And I will see you all in May. And thank you, patrons, for coming today. All right, True beauty comes from the kindness you show unto others. And bye-bye!